Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going? Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me.
Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
There are two types of drivers. Those who love this track and those who shy away from it. It is one of the big four endurance tracks with Le Mans, Daytona and Spa-Francorchamps. It is a toll road that leads to nowhere. It is the longest active circuit in the world, and it is 154 turns of pure racing perfection. Welcome to the Nurburgring, the industry fast and layout live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, sim racing fans. My name is Jake Sperry. Along with me for today's action is Joey Atterbury. Ryan Bauer is directing behind the scenes, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. So Jackie Stewart's Green Hell, a monster of a circuit that's legacy keeps it active. Our GSRC track guide is the perfect place to understand what makes the most difficult and most dangerous track in the world so fearsome.
Welcome to the Nurburgring Nordschleife. Most modern high-end series might use the GP circuit nowadays, but it will certainly never hold the respect and awe that the Northern Loop commands. Though it can be and is usually used in conjunction with the Grand Prix circuit for competitions in real life, here on iRacing, drivers can harken back to a time gone by and just run the 13-mile behemoth this place is known for. Nicknamed the Green Hell by three-time F1 world champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. More than 150 turns and close to 1,000 feet in elevation will pass you by in a single lap. Simply memorizing the course is half the battle for most drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that this place is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff. There's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as Fluke Lots, Miss Hit Miss, Bravery Corner, and of course, the ever-iconic Carousel. It's not just the places where you've got to move the wheel that get attention too. the Dodinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. While you would think this circuit would mainly be limited to the track days most gearheads flock to for a chance to lap the ring, it still sees quite a bit of wheel-to-wheel combat. The 24 Hours of the Nurburgring, the VLN Series, and the World Touring Car Championship all still take the track to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect.
This is a beautiful place, and for some, this is what dreams, or for other people, nightmares are made of as a racing circuit. It is old, it is beautiful, it has got all the hallmarks, and it's one of the most unique places to go racing, Joey. This is a unicorn above unicorn of racing circuits.
There is nothing else like the Nurburgring out there in the entire world. Look at this place, nearly 13 miles long, 154 turns in total. Like you said, it's dreams and nightmares. It's Mount Everest of mountains out here, and these competitors just are going to be climbing their whole race tonight. And very narrow racetrack, especially once you're on the Nordschleife here, and going to have to be careful of the curbs. It's very high speed in certain sections. It's not always smooth. There's several bumps, and making passes is not always easy at this racetrack. It has to have coordination from both parties out there. So we'll just have to keep an eye on any side-by-side racing. But one thing's for sure, it is going to be action-packed and very fast in these cars.
Oh, it absolutely will. We're in these classic Lotus 79 machines, and let's talk the F1 driver standings then, which is for drivers with 3,000 or more iRating in the system, which puts you as a top 5% in iRacing if you are inside that range. It is Andy T, 3 of 3. He is on another level compared to all of these drivers, and he is clear by 77 points already over the two Timothys, Reed and Vaughan, who are second and third in the championship. Miko Leno is currently fourth, holding off a swarm of talented drivers, including Juanmi Costa, Gernot Fritzsche, Kimmo Villiakainen, Nick Thyssen back for this season, Nathan Finnegan, and Tamas Bartfai, the F2 champion last season, moving up into the F1 standings and already finding himself inside the top 10. Joey, you've been keeping an eye on the F2 driver standings. We shouldn't see people today from the F2 standings because we have 4 splits today, but it still looks very interesting.
The F2, the only thing that separates them, like you mentioned, is the iRating. These are 3,000 and under iRating. More my type, but these guys are way faster than me. And we have a tie right now. Miguel Moreland and Mike Christopher Jr. currently 87 points each entering this round here. Have to keep an eye on that. Olivier Verhagen there, 11 points back. JF Godin and then Keith Herner inside the top 5 as well. But with only 3 rounds so far, Jake, I think everything is just kind of starting to take shape. And here at this racetrack, it's going to take shape even more.
It certainly is. I have just got a look. We do have a couple of F2 drivers here today, but this is round 4 of 12. This is the quarter-way stage, or sorry, I'll correct myself, the third-way stage of the season. And it's going to sound weird. Today is only 5 laps long, which feels like an absolute sprint. But when you've got a track length and track distance like this, 5 laps will be going really, really slowly, and there'll be a lot of work to do. Open setup here today, so everyone's got to try and build the best car possible, and they don't have a spare car. If they find themselves on one of these very, very narrow roads going just an inch offline, they are in trouble today, and they are out of this race. Don't expect too many instant points to come through today's racing. 17 instant points constitutes a disqualification. A drive-through penalty. 25 will constitute a disqualification. But with that all said, qualifying was done in pre-practice servers. So let's take a look at who qualifies where with what time. No surprises at the front. It is Andy T who has the pole position ahead of Topi Kortaniemi in second place. Severi Seppa and Kimmo Villiakainen make sure it's an all-finish second row with Gernot Fritzsche, the most winningest driver in this series, 5th, and Jacob Reed alongside him in 6th position. Timothy Reed and Nick Thyssen are 7th and 8th. Most unenviable task for Phil Reed. He's on controller in 9th position with, of course, Heike 360 ES, Xavier Sanchez, the biggest Iberian streamer, in 10th position, Joey.
In the 11th spot, looks like we have Ivan Ayuso. In the 12th position, Juha Raina. Ian May there in 13th spot. Jack Spickett in the 14th position. Karthik Pai rounding out the top 15. Tomas Barkfai in the 16th position. Gary Ho, Dylan Freckleton, Nathan Finnegan 19th, and Terji Gronvold there in the 20th spot.
I think we're going to get a quick start here today. Henry Charman, Olivier Verhagen and co are all there and all ready with no qualifying. It's a 1 minute grid, lights on, lights out, and they'll get themselves then underway. 3 drivers are non-start then here today as they look to go through Pettis Mentana in troubles, but through the Sabine Schmidt curve. Andy T has a nice clean start and they immediately go single file to about Juho Reiner is where they start battling, and it's a quick start to the lap here at the Nordschleife because they have to go through the opening lefts and rights around this circuit, and you are threading the needle as you make that run towards Flugplatz, the first real section of circuit where you understand as they go through the long right and left down the hill, and now you make that run to the jump here at Flugplatz.
I love these camera angles, especially on the first lap. Let's watch these cars over this jump.
Andy T absolutely flying then on the early stages, and drivers have to be so concerned with what they need. They need all the downforce possible here. Ground effect, the forefathers of ground effect, these Lotus 79s. They run through now over towards Schwedenkreuz and the Arenberg corner, and it's going to be about troubles, and already troubles for Phil Reed on the opening lap. He in the number 7 car is out, but crucially, because he takes the tow, there is the active reset system that is in place, so he found himself in the wall and he was able to get himself going, but he's crabbing heavily, so his day done. But now up the hill they'll come along here through compression and into Ardenauer first, which pretty much sets them all up as they go through. Courteniemi still giving Andy T a run in these early stages, and you want to stay within a range here, Joey, of about 6 to 7 tenths of a second over the lap, because there are 2 main places to make a pass today, and they're going to be on the run towards Bravery Bend or Mühlberg Corner, and then of course you've got the Dottinger Herb right at the end of the lap and that run through to the final few corners.
I agree with you. I think Courteniemi is doing exactly what he needs to do. Stay in that draft distance where he can just be in touch with Andy T. But I tell you what, this is a section of the racetrack that gets aggressive. You have to be on your marks and you can't overstep the limit. This might be where Andy T starts to stretch it out, or if we'll see Courteniemi's got something for him today.
On board from a driver's eyes perspective with Severi Seppa, number 5, out there in what is 4th position, has lost one off the start to Kimmo Villiakainen as he now runs up to the very difficult Exmüller corner. It's pretty much a corner. Yeah, off, immediately off, and that is Severi Seppa in trouble and out of this race. And Exmüller, we talk about it being a difficult corner because you're up the hill and the track falls away from you as you climb.
There's so many different corners here on the Nurburgring, and each one of them presents their own challenges. You gotta be on top of everyone. And on that note, at the beginning of the race, it was actually Tomas Barkfai and Gary Ho also had problems, got pushed out into the wall.
And crucially, with Seppa's incident, he managed to hit Journo Fritzsche as he came back onto circuit. This will put Jacob Reed in play, but they're all bottling up behind because Timothy Reed is there, Nick Disson's there. They all want to go through. This is the Bravery Bend, this left-hander. You have to lift slightly for it, and if you do lift, you might open yourself up, and suddenly, here comes the move. Looking to the inside, tyres in the grass then for Jacob Reed, as the Battle of Reeds ends up still in Jacob's favour over Timothy, but it's now brought Xavier Sanchez, Ian May, and you could argue Reicher, Pai, Freckleton, they're all now in the group.
This is a great shot riding on board with Xavier Sanchez. Look at the banking there. You can't get out of that. If it does, it'll spit you out and you'll lose all of those positions. But this is something else to see, Jake. All of these cars line astern going through the Nürburgring.
Absolutely, and up now to the north section of the circuit, and now trying to make that run through this around kilometre 15 of the overall circuit, which would include the Nürburgring Grand Prix section, which we don't have available to us today. This is the section of track where most drivers find trouble, not because it's necessarily the most difficult section of track here, Joey, but because there are just so many corners to remember, you might just forget what comes next in the sequence.
agree. And it's funny to me because when I learned the Nurburgring, yeah, I learned the first half way more than the second half because I drive the first half way more because I never make it to the second half of the racetrack. But you're right. There's just so many corners here on this racetrack. And really, when you get to the back half, a lot of them seem to blend together and have similar visual cues, which makes it even more difficult.
Absolutely, through to Stefan Beloff, S then, and now looking to try and make this run up. Reacher, we take a look from behind, and troubles already. That's Juho Reiner, number 18, was in 12th position, getting it wrong just around that Beloff S section, just before it, the corner before. So here's Day in trouble because he managed to collect Ian May, who had a trouble in front. So this is what makes this circuit difficult. There's just no room for an incident to sort of get away safely. It normally stays on track.
Yeah, and certainly just the car spun in front of him. He had nowhere to go. You see how narrow this racetrack is.
You really do. Here's Ian May coming up through. It's bumpy. You have to be committed on the brakes. If you're anything offline going through, then you've got troubles, and those good years are not going to be having a great time. Would have absolutely flat spotted them, but we're on the run now, on the Dossier Herb for the first time, and look at Gernot Frietscher go back to fourth position. They're too wide, too deep as they go to Tisselchen, as they go through. Look at that. Through goes Timothy Reed. He now moves up to fourth. Frietscher now fifth. Thyssen still in sixth, and Jacob Reed seventh. Xavier Sanchez still on the back of this group in eighth place. And it looks like Gernot is struggling here in these early stages because of maybe a little bit of damage of that hit from Severi Seppa might be causing trouble. Top two, well, 4 seconds clear of Kimmo Villiakainen in third, but Andy T has almost got the 1 second he needs. In fact, he's just over a second right now, and if he can break it, Joey, he's gone.
To report on that, I've been watching that lead battle. Topi did a great job staying within that draft. He got sucked up to about a half a second down the long straightaway, but now that they've entered the ring again, I think that Andy T this lap is going to start to stretch it out just that little bit.
He has such a confidence, does Andy T, and he drives as if it's absolutely easy. Here's Nathan Finnegan, though, number 14, and he's got a brilliant challenge in front of him. They're behind Terje Magnus Grunwald at this point in time as they go up through Flugplatz corner, and he just in front of him is one of those incredible F2 drivers. Where do you want to go? Nathan Finnegan to make the pass on Olivier Verhagen, and Verhagen has nothing for it then as Finnegan has to go through. That was brave.
Wow, that was brave. So brave. I can't believe he squeezed it around the outside there, and let alone the car actually saw him and gave him room. Thank the Lord that that all worked out.
Absolutely, and that, you could say, for Nathan Finnegan was massive. We take a look, though, on board the driver's eye perspective here from Nick Thyssen. This is the first point of the lap where you can really breathe and enter effectively the middle of this Nurburgring track. And Nick Thyssen, he's done it all before, he's seen it all, he's written the book in terms of sim racing. You talk about him as a sim racer and you go back 5, 6, 7 years, and Nick Thyssen was absolutely up there in and around a lot of what the top sim racing was. Now he finds his his ability to race, to go through here in this Lotus 79 series, and he is someone who will just know when to wait, and someone who's just fallen into troubles. It's Terje Magnus Grunwald then who has fallen into troubles, and the Norwegian in a bit of trouble.
Take a look at this quick replay here, see exactly what happened. Looking at the number 26 car, that's the lead car, this black car coming into this sweeping left-hander. Looks like it just got loose on him, locks it down. I don't think anybody got into the back of him, doesn't see any damage. He'll be able to continue on.
So he'll get away with it and will be able to go forward. But now it's about finding room to make overtakes. And Gernot Frietscher right now will be looking here through Exmüller corner and going through now on to the Lauder Links. So from Bergwerk over to the Lauder Links now. And this incredibly fast section of track that now leads to this next run. Frietscher has lost contact with Timothy Reed. He's gone, and that will mean Nick Thyssen will want to get through quickly. He'll move to the left-hand side, try and use that overlap here as they come to the Bravery Bend. He can't quite get alongside, so he'll back out of it then, and Jacob Reed, quite naturally, is leaving a little bit of gap. And you do this here more than anywhere else, because if there's an incident, You've got more chance if you leave yourself more room to get out of trouble. That's going to be the key today, keeping out of trouble. First thing you must do is find a finish for big points in this series.
You got to remember also Xavier Sanchez is licking his lips right behind Jacob Reed as well. So this isn't just 3 cars. I would really consider this 5 cars all the way from Timothy Reed back to Xavier Sanchez. This is the best battle on the racetrack. And like you said, it's tough to go side by side. And when Jacob Reed is sitting right here looking at this battle, he's just saying, all right, be safe up here. Don't collect us all.
Well, you can't be much safer than Gernot Fritsch. That much you can say. He is the most winningest drivers. He's got the most championships in Lotus 79 in iRacing history. He's got 3 times as many wins as anybody else. He's got about 4 times as many podiums as anybody else. He is someone who just absolutely exudes confidence when you drive against him out there as you move forward. Something I had noted, the gap in the lead did close down to about 0.4 of a second, but it's up again to 0.9 of a second. And I'm just thinking that Topi Courtniami's got an absolute bullet of a straight line machine, but Andy T, quite rightly, when you've got confidence, you put more downforce on the car to be quicker in the corners.
Correct. He, meaning Courtniami, loses a little bit through the ring, but really sucks it back up onto the back of Andy T. And this is actually the closest that Topi's been all race. He's down to 0.6 of a second, and crucially leading out to where his car is strong.
Yes. And now the Golden Cuff corner here, this triple apex right. So here's the second, and then through the third, and you're on to the longest straight. Normally, when you're here and you do your lap with the Nurburgring and you pay your money to do it, you take the flick off right at the tourist entrance, but these drivers will be going flat out for maybe somewhere around 2 miles, 3 miles of straight, just trying to make sure that you're getting as much as you can out of it. And crucially, it's 296 for Courtniami, only 288 on the straight for Andy T, so it's 8Ks worth the difference, over 300 getting tucked up underneath, so it needs to be half a second to make the move by the time you reach Tisselchen corner. And that then for Topi Courtniami is great insight. He doesn't show his hand by trying to make a move, but by the time lap 3, lap 4, and even lap 5 comes around, that's good. Finnegan out of the race then, he's down on the pits. I'm not sure what's happened to him. Andy T though sets the fastest lap of the race.
Fastest lap, but I tell you what, Courtniami definitely has a very fast car. He is tucked up right under the back. This is the first time this season that Andy T has had a legitimate challenger. I'm loving seeing it.
Oh, I've just caught what's happened to Nathan Finnegan. He's had a massive incident on his own, just catching the curbs on the outside in the second half of the lap, and that's why his race is over and done with. He was pushing. We now take a look at the Global SimRacing Channel replay. This is what happened to Nathan Finnegan from Club West. Going through here, the right, the left, and the right. If you're slightly out of line for one section, you're out of line for the others. He just grabs the grass, and suddenly there's no grip. The car spears to the inside, and he's a passenger.
Jake, I don't know if Nick Thyssen has damage on the car. He clearly made a mistake this lap. He's about 4.5 seconds off of his fastest pace, and he's separated that gap between him and Jacob Reed, and Xavier Sanchez is trying to get around him.
I'll tell you where it was, where Nick Thyssen had his trouble. He had his trouble. Oh my goodness me, he will have damage because he went off the road just before the bell off S, was out of shape, tapped the Armco barrier and just about saved it before the bell off S. So Nick Thyssen has just had a bullet save, and you can see there as he wiggled through that section of road, he's just behind now Xavier Sanchez, who's through. That's Kartik Pai just behind him. I wonder if he's trying to test out whether he's got enough downforce in that machine or not, because he's just looking very squarely around the lap here as we're on that halfway lap, lap 3 here of 5.
Yeah, he's definitely got damage, because if you remember, he was up there applying pressure with Jacob Reed and Gernot Fritsch, and now he's just fallen back. Xavier Sanchez has gotten by him, immediately gapped him. Here comes Karthik Pai right behind him, but we're going to jump up. This is the lead battle. This is Topi Courtniami applying pressure to the back of Andy T. He's only half a second back.
And once again, this is the section you've got to be half a second back in. If you can get a good run here through this left-hander and then back up the hill through this right to Exmüller corner, you've got to be in range. It's 0.6 of a second, and once again, Andy T is proving that his philosophy of car build is giving him enough of a margin. And now it's through this long Bergwerk corner here, this right-hander where you just want to put the power down, but you can't. You've got to be patient, got to wait. The gap again, another 0.1 of a second, but this is where Corsiami brings it back.
Yeah, all the way up this hill in the slipstream. Very crucial. You're right. Look at how much speed he has. To put that into more freedom units, it's about 5 miles an hour.
5 miles an hour in this car is a lot, and through the Bravery bend, he has to lift a little bit going through, and he has that confidence to be at about 0.3 of a second here, and he's just got to hold that margin through this second half of the lap, through the right, and leading to the most famous corner you could say in motorsport, which is the carousel. And it's a slow corner, it's a long corner, and you're trying to pick the right point to enter the carousel, especially in an open-wheeled machinery like this, because you drop too aggressively onto that banking, Joey, you're damaging the front wing.
Well, and one thing I noticed there, Andy T was very easy going in. Look at this. Topi's going to take a look. He knows that there's no place to pass here, but I'm seeing two different driving styles, Jake. I'm seeing Cortignani being very aggressive. He wants this win. He wants to go up there and lead. Andy T is up there. He's taking his time. He's making sure he's getting all the entries just perfect, just kind of out for a cruise right now. He's not used to this pressure behind him, and I don't even think he's looking in his mirrors at all.
I don't think he is either, and it's such a small mirror as well. I'm not sure you'd see very much behind you, to be perfectly honest. Want to take this moment, though, to shout out some of your biggest movers in the field, and we got a tie of +13 for both Jean-Francois Boscus and Björn Ackermann, who are 12th and 13th in this race. They're having an absolutely fantastic race of things, and the best bit is, there's easily a chance that they could get more.
We still have 3 laps to go, and 3 laps, that ain't that much. Well, when it's 12 and a half, or nearly 13 miles doing 6-minute lap times, plenty of racing left.
It certainly is. Let's take a look at Jacob Reed, though, here. Number 4, still chasing Gernot Fritzsche. Timothy Reed is now 3 seconds down the road, and Jacob Reed has been struggling to find that pass and try and get that move sorted. And the 2 Reeds come from 2 different countries. Jacob Reed is the British driver. Timothy Reed is the American from Club Atlantic. And through a mistake then by Gernot Fritzsche, who goes very defensively here through the left-hander, which leads to this miniature carousel here. This fast left-hander, it spits you out if you're too aggressive here. And I think Jacob Reed has got himself all of the momentum he could possibly ask for to make this overtake here on the Dossinger Herve.
I think if you ask me, it looks like Jacob Reed has a little bit more speed in the car, and given that he's so close going down the straightaway, he'll have an opportunity to pass him here, but this is one of the most, the most successful Lotus 79 driver here in Gernot Fritzsche. He ain't going to be going anywhere anytime soon.
No, and Jacob Reed's got so much downforce on his machine that he can't actually make enough inroads. He's only 4 kilometers an hour fast enough on the straight to close, and because he's got so much downforce here, it actually hurts him right now. He can't make an overtake, and sometimes when you're in the middle of the pack, you have to set a car up slightly unideally for overall lap time to give yourself the chance to overtake.
Great catch, Jake. I agree. He's just running a little bit more downforce, and that's also probably why we see him be so aggressive through the track and right up the back of Fritzsche.
Well, he's all over the back of Fritzsche. I guess then he's going to have to do something a little bit counterintuitive and attack him at a place where he's not expecting an overtake. And you talk about these opening sections of lap, you've got to be sort of careful. We're on lap 4. I wouldn't make a move this lap, but on lap 5, would I send one here at this next right-hander? I certainly would have a think about it.
And I love seeing the setup from Gernot out here, because this is a classic racing car driver that's comfortable with his car. Jacob Reed has a ton of speed right now, a little bit more downforce. He wants to be aggressive, but Gernot's out there just kind of out for his Sunday drive. He's okay with low downforce. It's okay moving around. Guess what? You ain't going to pass me because I'm going 185 miles an hour by myself out there.
Absolutely, and it's that speed that you see through Scheidenkreuz. And now thinking about Arenberg corner, it was just a thought moving through there by Jacob Reed, and now disappearing under the bridge, and now moving toward the Foxhole section, and then compression corner. Being on this circuit, Joey, compression, the sim does not do it any justice. You go through this section in any sort of machinery, your head's in your lap. There's so much negative G through that section.
It's the kind of the difference between real life and the sim. We don't have that feel that we have in the sim, and yes, you're right, the elevation changes, the compression, the bumps, the curves, everything about this place is just so amazing in real life.
Oh, it absolutely is. And Jacob Reed, as we take this focus then from the most classic of classic camera angles possible, is trying to still find a way at Gernot Fritzsche, but isn't necessarily having everything that's needed. Olivier Verhagen, though, he's leading a 4-car train right now in 11th place, and this is really interesting in terms of battle. We've got Tamas Bartfai in there, James Cockram as well is in that 4-car group. And I find it so interesting when you find these battle packs of 3 or 4, because you're always looking at who's going to make it through. 2 more drivers haven't made it around the lap. Jack David Spickett in trouble, and so too Ivan Alesiuk in trouble.
The Nurburgring can catch you out at any corner. We're used to seeing, catch a lot of people out at the beginning, but trust me, it is so easy to overstep any of these corners. Remember, 156 turns per lap out here, and a lot of them look identical going in.
They certainly do, and this is another thing to keep in mind. This is also one of those sorts of series or races that gets a lot of participation. Why the Nürburgring, for example, Joey? Simple. People want safety rating. The formula in iRacing is that basically you do a number of amount of clean corners per lap, you gain safety rating. A track like this, which has 154 corners, you're going to gain a lot of safety rating.
A lot of safety rating indeed, and when you look at the scheme of iRacing, that's important to advance your license and to be able to compete with this top level that you're seeing out here. And here we have Courtiniami officially on the back of Andy T.
He's made it official. He wants to challenge Andy T for place. He wants a victory over the undefeated driver this season, who is 80 points clear at the top of the championship already in Andy T. Flicking through down the hill, the lefts and the rights. Look how much more confidence Andy T has, and it's a double whammy having the better downforce, because more downforce means you create more wake.
Yes, and that's important because that car behind you has to drive through that dirty air. It's never easy to do that, and I've really kept my eye on this lead battle, Jake, and right here, Topi just doesn't seem to quite have the pace in these next few corners. Andy's able to stretch it out, but then on that straightaway, once again, Courtiniami is able to close it in that slipstream.
And this is where he starts to go through. These high-speed corners is where he wants to build that margin. Goes back up to 0.8 of a second, but as soon as he flicks through and gets to put a little bit more power down, he starts to close it up, and you see it on the times. Looks like Dylan Freckleton's just fallen into troubles then, and he's backwards and out of the race almost. He'll keep going, but he's got heavy damage to the front wing.
Unfortunate for Freckleton there. We were just highlighting that battle with him and Verhagen as well as some others, and catch this replay of exactly what happened out here to the number 12 car.
He's on his own, going through the lefts and the rights. He catches a slide then for the first part, goes through the second, then he's Tony Hawk on the curb, and there's no other way to describe it there. If you're on that curb and you have no confidence to slow the car down, you're a passenger.
Which one is that called? Is that called the 50-50 grind?
I think that is the 50-50 grind. And speaking of 50-50s, that's what someone like Jacob Reed has a chance of doing. In fact, has lost a lot of time. He's actually gone behind Kartik Pai now. So that's 3 places, because he's gone off the road as Jacob Reed. And in fact, he's lucky he's still got a car.
Yeah, Jacob Reed, you are right. Great catch there, falling way back. He was on the back of Fritzsche, and here we're going to get a replay of exactly what happened. And this is actually after now. This is him behind Kartik Pai. See what happens here.
Well, no, he's still behind Gernot Fritzsche there, and he just completely 360s it down the hill, noses the rear of the car in, and they'll take a driver's eye view. This is how quickly the car will fall away from you around this circuit. So he's through, he's on the bumps, he's going through. Oh, he just catches the curb, and it's a high curb as well, which completely derails him.
And looks like he does get into contact there with the wall, but wisely stays driver's left. You called it. That was Gurno's car. I'm used to seeing Karthik Pai out there with that similar yellow car.
Exactly. Found himself from one yellow car to another yellow car. Final lap then, here at the Nordschleife Industry Fahrten layout. And for Topi Korteniemi, he has stared at the back of Andy T at about 0.6 of a second for the majority of this race. If he wants to win this race outright, he has got to be in range when he gets to the Dossinger Herb. He might be able to do it a little bit earlier, but now making that run past then the run to Flugplatz. He's now on the run to Arenberg Corner, Schwedenkreuz the left. And now you start to think for Topi Korteniemi, where does he set it up and can he stay in range of a very, very talented number one?
You're right. This is one of the strength areas of Korteniemi, and still down this downhill, if he's able to close up, it doesn't look like he's able to make a really aggressive move coming up into this compression here, but he's where he needs to be to potentially make a move this lap.
Exactly. He's just got to find the move. You don't ask you how you make the move. You ask you how many positions have you got and where did you finish. That's sim racing at its finest. Andy T, though, knows that these next couple of corners are going to be massive. 0.7 of a second. If you can pull out 1/4 of a second here, he'll break the spirit of Topi Korteniemi, because there is something so telling, Joey, about 1 second. It feels so massive at this stage of the race.
Yes, it does. And 1 second means that you can breathe a little bit easier going out onto the straightaways. I know that there's still the downforce difference, but that slipstream, if he is in it, it's crucial because it'll just suck you right up on the back of that car.
I don't count out the race for third either. That was 2 seconds over the line, and Timothy Reed, last lap, took a second out of Kimmo Villiakainen. So Villiakainen might be in trouble late in this race. We'll keep an eye on that as it goes through. There's also the Nick Thyssen battle with Xavier Sanchez. So it looks like Sanchez has run into troubles then over the course of this lap. He's dropped a couple places.
Yeah, it's really kind of been that 5th through 9th place that has just run into a lot of issues out there on the racetrack. They're still running, but it's a little bit of a shuffle from the original order.
It is a shuffle, and we are starting to see it, and look at that. 1 second. Andy T's got the break he's wanted. He's waited about 5 laps to make sure, or 4.5, to see if he can break 1 second, and he's just on the cusp of it at this stage. But this is where Korteniemi comes back, and suddenly it comes back down under a second. Won't be as strong here, the draft. Won't be able to follow as religiously through this section of track. The bravery bend then this left-hander, but Andy T, oh, he's pushing so hard. He was nearly in the grass there. He's trying to take so much pace through this section of track.
We've talked about Andy T making no mistakes, but let me tell you, there's been a couple moments in the previous few laps that he has had huge saves, just huge formula drift on corner exit, putting the power down. He has got it all but wrapped up out there.
It looks calm on the surface, but inside he's very much paddling away like a swan at this point in time. And look at that gap through the carousel. It was at a second when he entered the straight. It's now 0.3 of a second. The bear isn't very pleased, but I tell you what, for Andy T, he'll be looking around him. He sees Topi Korteniemi there. He needs a couple sectors of his life right now. He knows 0.6 is not enough to defend on the Dossinger Herb with the way that Topi's been driving at the top end of speed.
This is that ebb and flow. This is one of the sections that Korteniemi is very fast on the racetrack, and here get through a few more corners. Andy T will tend to start to stretch it out a little bit more. And Jake, just for your reference, the first lap, Korteniemi was 1.4 seconds behind T going out onto the main straightaway. As long as he's closer than that, I think he's still got a shot.
He definitely has a shot, and he'll be pushing with everything that he's got. Gap, though, back to 0.9 of a second, and almost over a second it will start to come down as they go through these incredibly quick rights and lefts. Over a second now. Andy T finds himself at a level where he just can't be matched by Korteniemi. Stefan Belovesh, you're running out of time, Topi, if you want to catch him.
Just a few more corners left that Topi can come up and catch, including this little miniature carousel that they're going to be approaching. You got to hit your marks, and look at this. Korteniemi's starting to close it up.
Yeah, 0.9 of a second. Mini carousel, though. How much good is the drive off the exit? The Golden Cough corner will say all. Andy T is pushing right out to the track limits, trying to extend. Korteniemi tries to go through, and 0.2 of a second in the Golden Cough alone might have just been enough for Andy T to hold it. Courtiniemi in the longest straight in the world of racing now separates it. That gap will come down under a second right now, but half the straight's already gone. Topi Courtiniemi's going to need a miracle here out of Andy T, a driver who never makes mistakes here in this Lotus 79 at this Nordschleifer Industry Fahrten circuit. This has been a really tough challenge for Andy T today. He's never had a chance to rest like he has done in other races. Into the final couple corners, his brake markers are perfect as he goes through. Andy T will round the final corner, and it is 4 fantastic races for Andy T this season.
What a victory. Andy T actually had company, and Topi made him have to work for it. Looks like this is Kimmo Villakainen with Timothy Reed right on the back bumper as they cross the finish line as well.
One more lap needed for Timothy Reed. That's all he needed. One more lap. And here's a 4-car battle for ninth. Olivier Verhagen's going to have his work cut out. Here is Jean-Francois Boscas, started on the final row of the grid, looking to try and pick this ninth place up. Under the Bilstein Bridge, he's going to get this move done. And on the brakes, it's going to be fought by Verhagen, but he's going to have to lift out of it then as they flick through the lefts and rights at the end of the lap. Boscas is going to get it just stopped. Oh, he very nearly found himself in trouble there. But Jean-Francois Boscas, what a drive he's going to have. He's going to finish ninth because Javier Sanchez is limping his car home in 14th place.
Wow, what a fantastic race. Here you see Xavier Sanchez, like you said, limping the car home. Not the result that he wanted after how it started today.
No, absolutely not. He will cross the start-finish line, which is not shown up here on screen, but what an incredible race we have just got our hands on. And I tell you what, we have got so much more amazing stuff happening with the Global SimRacing Channel and stuff that has already happened if you want to watch it on demand. We're going to step aside for one moment. We'll be back with post-race coverage here from the Nordschleifer after this.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect. How's it going, Sally? Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going? Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me.
Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Welcome back then, ladies and gentlemen, to your Lotus 79 coverage here from the Nordschleifer Industry Fahrten. It is a 4th straight Grand Slam pole position, race victory, fastest lap. But this was not an easy challenge for Andy T. He had to set his fastest lap on the final lap of the race just to keep Topi Kohtuniemi at bay. A 29-minute, 34-second race split by just 0.6 of a second at the finish line. Kimmo Villiakainen would round out the podium in third place, with Timothy Reed finishing fourth, needing just one more lap to have got by number 6 in this race. Gernot Fritzsche would have contact with Separi Seppa. He had no real choice about the matter, but was able to finish off in 5th place, ahead of Kartik Pai in 6th, who was able to hold off Jacob Reed, who had himself a spin over the curb, was able to finish in 7th. Nick Thyssen is also lucky to finish this race, but he finishes the race exactly where he started, 8th place. That's not bad, but now you talk some of the biggest gamers in the field. Jean-Francois Boscus from 25th to 9th, a gain of 16 places today. He deserved that result, along with Olivier Verhagen in 10th position, who makes great strides in the F2 Championship, Joey.
And then James Cochran there in 11th position, also up 12 positions from his starting spot. Tomas Bartfai in 12th. Bjorn Ackerman, another one of those huge movers, up 13 positions to claim that 13th finishing spot. Xavier Sanchez, I know that he wanted a little bit of a better day in the 14th position. Gary Ho had those problems in turn 1, ends up 15th. Peter Smetna there in 16th. Henry Charman, Dylan Freckleton with those issues finds himself 18th. Ivan Ayuso, 19th position, and Jack Spickett there rounding out the top 20.
We've hit retirements now. Nathan Finnegan had a pretty dramatic end to his race in 21st. Terje Magnus Grunwald, 22nd. Ian May got himself caught up then in the second lap of the race. He'd end up in 23rd. With Severi Seppa, we found out what the issue was. It was a complete wheel failure that ended up with Seppa's race pretty much finding its dramatic end up at Exmüller Corner, with Phil Reed out on the opening lap there, the controller driver finding out what makes the opening section of the track so difficult, and Juho Reiner getting caught up with Ian May. Here's a race all over and done with on top of that. We do have a chance, though, to speak to some drivers, and no surprises in position number 1. Andy T joins us here. But Andy, that was probably a really difficult challenge for you today. You had the setup that allowed you to break as much an advantage as possible through the technical nature of this Industriefahrten Nordschleife circuit, but when you got a driver behind you who's racing with a rocket ship, it does make it very difficult to defend.
I mean, last I saw, I didn't have to defend anything there, Jake.
No, you are very correct on that, Andy, but your defense in terms of why it wasn't you had to make a defensive move, still, you would argue, would have to be made in sense of you still had to build a gap of about 8-9 of a second through the majority of the lap, yes?
Yeah, sure, but the way you do that is not by worrying about the guy behind. Like, it's just, especially here, focus on the apexes and hit every single one, which I didn't do today, but it was enough, thankfully.
Well, let's talk about this as a feat then for you. You've got 4 race victories, you've got 4 pole positions, you've got 4 fastest laps, you are almost 100 points clear now at the top of the championship, if not 100 points clear. In terms of you couldn't wish for a perfect start like this, how much effort of it from you has gone from building yourself up from a driver at the beginning of your iRacing career to this stage where you look completely unstoppable in classic machinery?
It's just practicing the right way and doing so for a very long period of time. I've always said it, and I don't think anyone listens to me, but especially in this series, it's full of hot lappers, and that's not how you get fast. Sure, that's how you get fast over one lap. How many times do you need to do qualifying? You know, like, get the race pace under your belt and just lap after lap after lap and get the consistency.
And that consistency is going to be key, with round 5 of the championship being completely different here to the Nordschleife. It's Brands Hatch, where it's a head to for you. It's a head home effectively as well. And in terms of Brands Hatch, a very, I would say, classic feel for this series. It's one of those circuits where everybody sort of puts themselves in and says, you know what, this is going to be racing that's going to be close, and it's high downforce as well. Are you looking at that and saying, well, 5 out of 5, and pretty much I can just put the championship on the back burner by that point?
You can never think like that. Too much can happen. I do like Brands, though. Brands is good fun, and it's a very different challenge to Nords. I just hope, and I don't know that any of them are listening, the guys who race Nords this week because it's Nords, please stick around in this car. I'd argue this is not even the best combo for this car. It's a nightmare for me. So yeah, please just come and join our Discord and get racing.
Well, there is the plug-in there for you. But Andy, it's 4 Grand Slams out of 4. Who gets it done for you after another incredible result for you?
Hoops, the one and only. Wouldn't be here without her. Thanks very much. And shout out to Kimo this week, who came in clutch for me. Thank you, buddy. I'll help you out whenever. Thanks to you guys for the broadcast and the community as always. And can the Nords one tricks, who are definitely not going to stick around, not come back. Okay, thanks, bye.
Andy T there, making sure that he's making friends, and he's got 4 wins out of 4, top of the pops. And then so there. Second position, not sure we're going to get a chance to talk to Topi Courtiniemi here, Joey, but we are going to get that chance, and he's with you right now.
Mr. Courtiniemi, fantastic race, and congratulations on the second place finish today.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I know that it wasn't the top step, but this is the first race this season that you've been able to hang with Andy T for the whole race. That alone has got to be a huge confidence booster for you.
Yeah, it's the only race I've so far been in this season, and I was racing with Andy last season, so or was it before that? Anyway, yeah, Andy was faster than me. I just relied on my strategy to maybe out-qualify him or pass him on the straight once and then just hold him back, but that didn't work out.
Well, talk to us a little bit about that, because we noticed that some sections your car was very, very fast. You were able to close in on him, and then some sections he was a little bit faster than you. But one thing was for sure, it seemed like you had about 5 miles an hour faster than him in the slipstream behind him.
I think I was quite low wing. Last time we raced here, I think I had the lowest wing, and I went even lower than that. So it made the car fun to drive, and I just couldn't keep up close enough to pass him on the straights. I should have sent it on the second lap. I think I could have got an overlap before the braking, so if I hadn't lifted at the end of the Döttinger, but
it's such a tough track, isn't it?
Yeah, especially in dirty air. It was uncharted territory for me, especially the last turn before the back straight. Last time I crashed there because I overdrive the car there. So this time in the dirty, I was a little bit maybe too careful there, and maybe just lost the tense I needed to catch him on the straight. I don't know.
Well, I love that you were able to put up a fight with Andy T all race, and he looked like he was vulnerable up there, so great job. And before I let you go, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to or say hi to?
Oh yeah, my team, Bike from Beach Racing, they just finished a 24-hour race, and they're probably exhausted, and congrats for them. They managed to finish P4 and P7. And you guys, of course, the broadcasts have been great. Always.
Real quick, are we going to see you next week at Brands Hatch?
We'll see. Probably not, but we'll see.
Well, I know that Andy T was hoping that more regulars are in this series, so we'll keep our fingers crossed that we'll see you next week. That was Topi Courtiniemi, your second place finisher today here at the Nurburgring, and I believe that Jake has caught up with Kimo Vilakainen, the final podium finisher.
Kimo, at least in the final stages then of that race, you had to be looking behind you a little bit, because it seemed like Timothy Reed had the bit between his teeth trying to chase you down. You built your gap up early. You kept things consistent in third position. Was that ability in the first few laps of the race just to stay calm and ahead of everyone that you needed to give you that buffer and that range to keep Timothy Reed at a manageable margin?
Yeah, I think I had a little margin behind me after Severi lost connection to his wheel, so then I was just managing my own pace and trying not to make any mistakes, because that's very, very easy here, and that will cost a ton of time.
Talk about the process then that goes into building a Lotus 79 here at the Nordschleife, because it's completely different to any circuit out there on the calendar. It's very bumpy. You're going to get small elements of grit here and there with the ground effect. just what goes into building a car and a setup here? Because I know Andy was very grateful in his interview in terms of what you were able to do with the car.
Yeah, big thanks for the setup goes to Timo Karjalainen, who made these community setups for this week and put the biggest work there. And I was just tuning a little bit that setup to get some top speed for my car, and so I can't take anything from that setup. That all the thanks goes to Timo Karjalainen for that setup.
Passing the buck, nice to see. But Brands Hatch then, round 5, is this going to be then for you a case of going from a long lap to a really short lap? What's the differences that you look on that? Because there are some similarities, for example, like Paddock Hill Bend, where you do have that general same level of elevation change when it goes from circuit to circuit.
Yeah, that's pretty nice corner, I think, when you hit it right. And well, I think it's much more downforce on Brands Hatch setup and pretty different to drive, but at least last time when we were there, I enjoyed it a lot. So let's see what happens.
Let's see, indeed. Before we let you go, Kimo, shout out sponsors. Anyone you'd like to thank? It's a 3rd place finish for you here today at the Nordschleifer Industriefahrten.
Yeah, thanks Timo for the setup and whole community to show up with so many people this week at Nords, and let's hope even somebody sticks up with this car for the upcoming weeks. And also thanks for Andy for some tips this week. Thanks, guys.
No worries at all. Kimmo Villiakainen there joining us and finishing off in 3rd position overall. But that's going to bring an end to our conversation here today from the Nurburgring Nordschleifer Industriefahrten. This has been an incredible race, but we've got so much more incredible racing coming up on the horizon. I do want to give a massive thank you, though, over to all of the team today, from Joey, from Ryan, from Dougie. You can get in contact with us through a number of ranges here by the course of our YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please subscribe. You'll get some amazing action that comes through, as well as going over to our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter, and as well as our Store Envy page as well. Make sure you get your merchandise in that you absolutely want. Our next race, 1 week from today, same time, but 1 week later, January 15th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. That's where we're going to be for Brands Hatch, this brilliant British circuit, which has seen all sorts of classics, both at national and international level. And you could even say it's held some Formula One great races on top of that. Anyone remember 76? But there is still more to come along. We don't have another race over the course of action until next Saturday, believe it or not. That's when we'll hit the Lotus 49s, and we're heading for the first time over to Magny-Cours in Nevers in France. So that's going to be a really interesting challenge. The former Formula One circuit is an absolute beauty of, I would say, tight and twisty racing. Make sure you check that out along with all of the other races that'll be cycling on screen. Mark them down in your calendar if you haven't already. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.